I'm Matt Fuller with Base Operations. Today we're going to be taking a look at how you would conduct a site assessment of one of your asset locations using the Base Operations platform. Let's jump right in. So today we're going to be taking a look at Denver, Colorado, and our office location is going to be in this central business district here in the middle of the city. Starting at the city level, we're looking at crime volume over the last 3 years, and we can see that crime has been increasing slightly throughout the city of Denver over the last 12 months as compared to its 3-year average. Looking at seasonality over the last 3 years, we can see that crime increases as much as 11% here in the summertime as compared to the fall and winter months. Now, drilling down into the neighborhood associated with our business location, here we're seeing crime statistics within this area, which in this case is a census tract within Denver, associated with the crimes that we have selected. So we see crime volume here on the right. We're also looking at the relative risk severity trends associated with this neighborhood. We can see over the last 3 years that this neighborhood has been consistently in the fifth quintile or upper 80% of overall risk for the city of Denver. We can also see that crime volume has been increasing pretty significantly against its 3-year average over the last 12 or so months for overall crime. And we can see that seasonality plays a little bit less of a role here with only subtle variance in volume month to month, with a little bit of a spike here in overall crime in February. Now, scrolling up and taking a look at which crimes have been most common over the last 3 years, we see robbery, armed robbery, auto theft, and assault as crimes which might pose the biggest risk to travelers or commuters heading into this location. So let's focus on these three for a second. Taking a look at robbery, we can see the trends associated with just robbery in this location. We can see that incident volume over the last 12 months has been fairly consistently above average, and we can see that robbery is much more common in the summer months, with spikes up to about 17% throughout the months of June through October as compared to November through April. Now, taking a look at armed robbery, we see this area goes through a few more ebbs and flows. Less consistency here. We can see it's consistently in this fifth quintile or upper 80% of overall risk for Denver. And we can see that spikes in armed robbery occur typically in July, December, and a large spike of about 85% here in April, which is something that's interesting and might factor its way into one of your briefings. Taking a look at assaults, we can see assaults have been fairly consistently above average over the last 12 months. We can see assaults are most common in the months of June, July, August, and then we see spikes again in December and February. Neighborhood is consistently in the upper levels of risk for Denver for assault. And now taking a look at these three, which you might consider a little bit more violent crimes or crimes that would directly affect people in this location, let's take a look at how something like time of day might affect their level of risk. So focusing just on mid-morning, midday, and evening, which is sort of as work might be wrapping up, headed into some happy hours, we could see that this neighborhood, again, is still in high risk for the city of Denver. We can see that crime volume here is still up as compared to its 3-year average, and we can see that June, July, August, September, and October show a little bit of an increased risk for these crimes during business hours. Now, these are the types of things that you would use to, number one, help proactively plan around things like security operations, and number two, notify employees of when they can expect to see an uptick in these types of crimes to help them make them a little bit more risk aware, put them in a better position to avoid an incident. Now let's drill down and see where these crimes are actually occurring around this particular location. So just focusing on armed robbery, robbery and assault, we're going to switch back to just the last 1 year. And we can see that we have some hot spots around our location for these three crimes. We see, right next door, we see some hot spots for things like robbery and armed robbery. And we can also see the dates and time of day so we can get a feel for when these things have been occurring. We see a little bit of a hot spot to the northeast. Looks like there's a lot of assaults up here about a block to the north. We see some to the south. And this is a quick way to get our bearings and get a real understanding of where these crimes have been occurring over the time period that we have selected. Now we can see the biggest hotspots within our neighborhood are over here at Union Station, which is to be expected just based on the volume of foot traffic and activity around here, but still important to factor in even though it's about four blocks away, because we're going to have employees that are commuting through Union Station to get to this office location. Now drilling down further, we can see that We've had, let's call this a 3-block radius around our office. We've had about 855 events over the last 12 months. Of those 855, about 400, so just under 50%, are occurring during the day, what you would consider normal working hours. The remainder of those are occurring overnight. So a slight increase of a few percent overnight, but for the most part, the risk of these crimes is pretty consistent throughout time of day, which is important to consider for the purpose of this assessment. Now, drilling back out one more time, one of the other things that we saw was high risk was auto theft. Now, while this neighborhood is in the medium high risk category for overall auto theft throughout Denver, we can see that it's been increasing in our location. Let's stretch this back 3 years again, just to broaden our perspective. We could see that over the last 12 months, auto theft has been consistently in this medium high risk as compared to, medium low risk for the previous 2 years. We can also see volume of auto thefts has been increasing significantly from what looked to be about an average of about 5 to 9 a month, and now we're looking at anywhere from 20 to 26 a month. A little dip here in April, but again, resuming that sort of 22 here back in May. So we can see that auto theft is most common in May, June, September, and October. Now, depending on the last time you completed a threat assessment of this location, this is something that might seriously impact decisions that you make about how you look at things like secure parking for your employees, maybe creating programs around incentivizing commuting to work versus parking in this particular location, or ways that you can make them feel safe about coming into the office and bringing their car and having to leave belongings in their car and things like that. You could go as far as making recommendations not to leave belongings in your car just to avoid them losing valuables based on this increase in auto theft. So this is an example of some of the ways that you would dig into a particular location, understanding how trends might influence your security operations and the way that you communicate the relative risk of this area to employees who are venturing into this office location. If you found this interesting and want to dig into a location that's relevant to you, feel free to reach out to book a demo. I appreciate you watching today, and have a great rest of the day.